Hi, I'm Helen and this is Why Mums Don't Jump. Busting taboos about leaks and lumps after childbirth. All the stuff that happens to your pelvic floor that no one ever talks about. Incontinence, prolapse, pelvic pain, problems that affect millions of women, 1 in 3. I'm one of them. I have a prolapse. My pelvic organs fell out of place after the birth of my second child. And if you had told me back then that I would be speaking about this stuff out loud, I would have told you to give your head a wobble. Hi, how are you? How are your bits? Welcome to series 5. What? I remember when I first started this podcast in 2020 and people kept asking me how I was going to fill an entire season with conversations about pelvic floor dysfunction. And here we are, 4 years, 4 seasons, and 1 book later, and there's still so much to say. So if you're new, I'd really recommend skipping back and listening to some of the previous episodes after this one. There's loads out there and they're all free and it's still all extremely relevant. A good place to start, maybe, the very first episode, I share my own story, and the second episode goes through the basics of lumps and leaks after childbirth with the physiotherapist, Katie. And then after that, just jump in wherever takes your fancy. So get stuck in. It's all still really current, really relevant, and loads more to come. A quick update from me on the prolapse front. I can never remember where we're up to, but I'm still doing all the things, a bit of running, bit of strength work, bit of yoga, full disclosure. I did have 1 or 2 leaking incidents during a couple of runs recently, which, I was pretty gutted about because it's not something that really happened before. So that was a bit of a nudge to get back on the pelvic floor exercises. And I think it was just a blip because it's been better since. Just when you thought it was safe. But on we go. And I've got some awesome guests coming up over the next few weeks. More brilliant and brave women sharing their experiences of pelvic floor dysfunction. And of course, the expert voices we all need to help us to understand what on earth's going on. I'd love to tell you more, but you're just going to have to wait. Season 5 of Why Mums Don't Jump is brought to you by iMedicare, pelvic health naturally. The team at iMedicare are passionate about improving quality of life for patients with pelvic health problems, and they supply products that are safe and easy to use as part of your rehab journey. Products like the Ephemia Bladder Support, a reusable vaginal pessary for stress incontinence, helping you to stay active without worrying about leaks. Made from a soft, flexible silicone, Ephemia is widely available on NHS prescription as well as through the affiliate shop on the Why Mums Don't Jump website, where you'll also find a discount code. Check it out. Today's guest is Holly Puddyfat, also known on Instagram as Holly and Thea. She's a content creator from Leeds. She's mum to a toddler, Thea, and she hosts the podcast Me, Myself and Mum Life. Holly found out she had prolapse in October last year, 2 years after her daughter was born. And like so many of us, she'd never heard of it. She was terrified about what it would mean, especially as someone with a huge passion for exercise. But she has grabbed the proverbial bull by the horns, and you'll see what I mean. But before we get to it, we mentioned a couple of things during our chat that might be new to you. I'm thinking of hyperpressives and maybe pessaries. So if you're not sure what that's all about, please check the show notes for episodes that cover those things in more detail. And as always, please keep in mind that neither of us are medical professionals, so don't take anything you hear as medical advice. So without further ado, here's Holly.
I had my daughter 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago now, and I thought I'd made a pretty good recovery, to be honest. Despite having quite a traumatic birth experience, I did think I'd recovered quite well. But when it's your first and your only experience, I think sometimes it's hard to know how well or not you have recovered because you don't know, you've got nothing to compare it to. But it was the end of October last year when I noticed something just didn't feel right. Basically, we'd been out all morning. I'd been carrying Thea a lot because she was going through a bit of a clingy phase. And I'd just recently finished my period. And I got home and I honestly thought I must have forgot I'd left a tampon in. So I was like, I'm just going to run upstairs and take it out. This was like a couple of days later. So I was a bit panicky thinking, I hope I haven't left a tampon in for 2 days. I've never done that before. And I'm like, there's nothing there. So I'm like shouting my partner, can you come and have a look? And he's labbing my legs up and he's literally looking, he's like, Holly, there's
Oh,
nothing there. And I'm like,
bless
well, I can,
him.
honestly, he's
Oh,
like
what
that.
a
He is
legend.
amazing. I know. And I'm like, you can't be looking properly. And he's got the iPhone torch and he's looking, he's like, Holly, there's nothing there. Well, that was it. I was like, well, what is it then? And up to then, I'd not really heard about this condition. So I didn't for 1 minute think, oh, I've had a prolapse. It was just like, something's not right. And then that was a Sunday. So I spent like all that day and night Googling it and realised it probably was that, or it could be. So then I went to see the doctor. Thankfully, they got me in on the Monday, so I didn't have to wait too long wondering what was going on. And that's when my diagnosis was confirmed.
What was that experience like? Was that helpful to see someone so early?
Yeah, I mean, it was for me because I quite like certainty. So if I'd have been
Yeah.
2 weeks waiting, I don't know, I'd have gone out of my mind. I think one of the things that I panicked about straight away was I love exercise. It's a massive part of my life. All of my best friends exercise with me. My partner does. It's our life. And I was thinking, like, reading this stuff online saying you can't run, you can't do this, you can't. And I was like, that for me, which maybe other people wouldn't be able to relate to because they're not as active, it would be literally like ripping my legs off. That's how it felt. So the fact I was able to go see somebody the next day, even though I didn't have the best experience with the GP, it helped me then make the next steps, was really important because the stuff you read on Google around it is scary, really is. And yeah, I sort of stopped Googling stuff once I'd had the diagnosis and I was like, right, I know what I'm dealing with and I can go and take the next steps. So that was definitely helpful for me. And I'm just grateful my doctors have a system where if you ring on the day, you can usually get in. So
When you say you didn't have the best experience, what sort of thing happened?
So I was really emotional going into the appointment, and I don't go to the doctors that often. I'm generally really healthy, and it was a female that I saw. I didn't request that because I wasn't that bothered, but it was a female. And as soon as I went in, I was getting a bit upset, and she's like, I don't understand why you're crying. Like, why are you crying?" So just lacking empathy completely. And then it's quite common. It's not the end of the world. Just I was like, well, it is to me. And then she did the examination. Again, I am in hindsight grateful for some of this because I know some people don't even get examined and some people don't have the knowledge to even diagnose. But she said, oh yeah, you have got a prolapse, but not what type, nothing else, just you have got a prolapse. Sat back down in the seat, just need to stop exercising, stop running, try not to lift your daughter, try not to carry her, and just start doing more pelvic floor exercises, even though I told her I already did Kegels quite a lot. And I said, so you're not going to refer me anywhere? There's nothing else you can do? No, that's it. If it gets worse, and these are the ways it could get worse, come back and see us. And that was literally it. So I was sort of like sent out of the door with not much more information than I went in other than like a confirmation. But then I was literally like, right, so I can't pick Thea up who was coming up for 2, doesn't understand anything. I was just like, this is just madness. So at that point, I did literally think, oh my God, my life's over. What am I going to do?
Yeah, no, exactly that. Don't pick your kids up, don't exercise.
Yeah.
Off you go. Don't worry about it. It's all fine. It's not fine.
And just saying it is common. No, it's common. Loads of people have this. Do they? I mean, I've never heard of anyone that's got it. I was 36 at the time. Like, I've never heard of anyone that's had this. So I'm glad she thinks it's common. I don't. And I can't relate. I've got no one. I just can't talk to anyone. I felt isolated. I literally didn't know anyone that had this condition. So it was really isolating.
And then for a lot of people, that's just it then. You go home, you follow the advice, and you don't lift your kids maybe, and you stop doing your exercise, and you feel really, really sad. But not you. You've really thrown the kitchen sink at this, haven't you? Haven't you?
Yeah.
What did you do, Holly?
I am a bit like that in life. I'm like, no barrier's too big for me to get over. That's my kind of like mindset on stuff. So basically what I did was, honestly, I feel like I was like in hindsight a bit manic about it.
Yeah.
So I was literally trying to find like a gynecologist that I could go and see to find out more information. And I was literally searching all over Yorkshire, Manchester, anywhere that would have availability, because even private people were booked up like so far ahead. I was like, I'll pay whatever. I was thinking we won't go on holiday this year. Whatever needs to be done, I'll see somebody type thing. And I managed to get an appointment for like the end of that week to go and see a gynecologist who was so much better, so much more helpful. He examined me, explained what type of prolapse it was, the prognosis, what my options could be, talked about pessaries. He mentioned surgery if that became necessary later. And he was just amazing, like just poles apart experience. And he said, look, it's quite mild in the grade of prolapses. To me, it's not mild, but to him, he was saying, you know, it is. And I recommend, you know, if you can go and see a physio or get a referral at this stage and just get some advice around how you're doing your pelvic floor exercises. So I went ahead and did that, but all of this has been self-funded. So my appointment with him was just a one-off, and it wasn't actually that expensive. But then I've paid for my physio and stuff just because I didn't want to go back to the NHS. I'd had a bad birth experience, bad aftercare, a bad GP experience. And for me, if it means like going out less for less meals or cutting back on other elements of life to pay that money for the physio every few weeks, it was worth it. And she has been worth her weight in gold. Like, I've spoke to a couple of different women's health physios since then, because I've also had a pessary, which we can maybe talk about later. But for me, there's no one more experienced in this field than women's health physios. Like, they just seem to deal with it day in and day out. They've seen it, lived experience. And she was literally like, no, you don't need to stop exercising and we will get you back to where you were. She was like my biggest cheerleader. And she has been, probably not just physically, but mentally, helped me so much over the last sort of 7-8 months. And I can't really thank her enough for everything that she's done to bring my confidence back to where I am today with it.
What was that conversation like? Do you remember when you heard from her that actually, no, you don't need to stop exercising? Because I know, like, you said that's a big part of your life, and I see on Instagram, you know, you really train properly. So what was that like to hear that?
I was like, first I thought she must be wrong, because I thought, you know, how can that be?
That's
like
interesting.
It seems so to fly in the face of everything I'd read and what the doctor had said. And the gynecologist was a bit, you know, he didn't really want to say either way on that. So I just, you know, she was like, no, you don't. I was like, right, I'll start exercising again then, but I'm going to drop my weights right down. And she's like, no, Holly, you don't need to do that. And she retrained me all about managing pressure in my pelvic floor, which I've had personal trainers over the years. I've attended classes, I've done it, and no one's ever taught me about how to breathe correctly when lifting and how to minimize pressure on pelvic floor, which is unbelievable now to me in hindsight. But I just don't think they get trained on it. I don't think it's a big part of their qualification and stuff like that. So through her teaching me all that and understanding how that works, I could see why she'd given me that advice about you can get back to exercise. So I've only just very recently gone back to things like running or anything that's more impactful, because since I've got my pessary. But before I got the pessary, I was still able to do quite a lot of exercise under her guidance. And every few weeks I'd go and like, just check it hasn't got worse. Like in my head, just thinking, I hope I've not done anything to make it worse. And she was like, Holly, it's exactly the same. So, you know, that's always given me that reassurance, seeing her every few weeks, just to know that the stuff I'm doing is not making it worse. Because it felt for me like it came overnight. So to me, could it get worse overnight? That's something I still mentally struggle with a little bit. You know.
Oh, you've hit on so many things there. I'm just like, yes,
I know,
yes,
sorry.
yes. No, like I'd collect, like even just that idea of like, oh well, I thought she must be wrong because I'd read all this other stuff. You do become someone who just doesn't trust any of the information that you're getting, because you read so much conflicting stuff and it can be so confusing. And I think the you know, the official kind of guidance, nice guidelines and whatever, it plays it quite safe in many ways. So then when you actually hear that, you're like, I really want to believe you because it's so important to me. But I'm scared because this thing came out of nowhere. I'd never heard of it, and it's made me feel like I don't trust my body anymore, like I'm really broken and I can't do those things, and I'm absolutely terrified that I'm going to make it worse. So when you do build trust with a professional in that way, and then you see that they can help you and you can do it in a sensible way, and it doesn't it won't necessarily get worse, and it can get so much better. That's amazing. And for you to have done that in such a short amount of time, like I think it literally took me years to slowly get my brain to that point and then find people to help.
I was going to say, as you were talking then, what came to mind was, you know, your podcast helped me loads as well. I literally binge listened to every episode within about a week, and you had a lot of people on as guests who had returned to exercise or physios, and it was like, oh well, more people are saying it, so it must be true. So that helped reinforce. Like, you had some really, really good guests on that I could relate to as well, and that I've followed on Instagram and since interacted with and stuff like that. And you know, it's like, you know what the algorithm's like, if you start following people in a certain subject, it throws more at you. So I was like, probably went into a bit of a research frenzy that lasted for a few months, and then just felt like I thought I know everything there is to know now about prolapse.
Yeah. Oh, I can't, like, sometimes I daren't even open Instagram in public because I know something's going to pop up that not everyone's going to want to see. But tell me about pessaries. So was it your physio that introduced you to the pessary as well?
No, so my physio doesn't fit pessaries, and She doesn't have loads of experience with them. But I'm on a support group on Facebook, and loads of people were talking about them on there. And then I'd seen a few people on Instagram, and sometimes, as you'll know, in certain times of the month, you can be more symptomatic,
Yeah.
like during your period and stuff like that, or there's certain points to me, or sometimes just because I'm either stressed a bit or tired,
Yeah.
I have more symptoms. So I thought it'd be really nice just to have something, if it's possible, to remove the symptoms, because my physio I see all the time felt that I had a constant like mind body association to my prolapse. I was thinking about it all the time, and that was causing me quite a big like anxiety spiral. So I thought if I could get something that removes all symptoms that could help break that cycle, I think it'd be really good for me mentally as well. So I managed to find a lady, another physio, about an hour away. So this is such a shame because I don't think there's many private pessary fitters, and I know that the
No,
NHS,
I don't think there are.
yeah, the NHS will generally offer the plastic rings, and from all my research, I really wanted to try the cube, so that's why I went privately for that as well. So yeah, I went to see her, and she just reconfirmed everything my other physio had said. So it again just helped me like feel really confident about what I was working on. And yeah, I got my cube pessary from her. The appointment that came where I actually fitted it, I was like, she's put it in, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Straight away, it's like all that heaviness is just gone. It's like uplifted. It's like, oh, hang on a minute, I feel like back to myself. And then she said, right, you're going to remove it now, Holly. You need to learn to remove it because it's one that you can take in and out, basically. And I just had a complete meltdown because I think I've got a bit disassociated with that part of my body. Like I was like, I actually had to wear a glove to get it out because I was like, I'm not putting my hand in there, just can't. And she's like, it's your body. And I'm like, I know, but it just freaks me out. So through that journey and like this, I've realised probably some mentally things that have been coping mechanisms for me, like disassociating with that area of my body, or this constant connection with it all the time. I feel like going through the pessary journey has really helped me stop that. So when I now wear my pessary, I don't think about my prolapse for long periods of time that I've got it in, which is really good for me mentally, as I said. And now I can take it in and out without gloves on, and I'm used to it, and I know what it feels like down there. Before, I was just literally not even looking, not touching it, not even doing anything. It was like it wasn't part of me. So I think the pessaries helped me in more ways than I can probably explain. And people say, like, I hear, oh, I don't want to go down that route. And I think, oh my God, why? Because the way people put it to me that helped me be convinced, it's like just like a sports bra for your pelvic floor. It's like some extra support. And then when I have it in, like people say, oh, can you feel it? It's a bit like a tampon. You're almost aware it's there, but it's not something you can really feel. And someone said to me, yeah, but when you first start wearing shoes, you can feel that they're on, but then you just forget that they're on, and and it's a bit like that. So yeah, I do tend to wear it most days now. I was planning to only wear it sometimes and for exercise, but I just like the fact that when I have it in, I'm like back to how I was before all this happened. And it's been great. It's like really easy, in, out, a bit like a tampon. It's as quick as that. I can't really stress enough how much I sort of advocate now for pessary since that. To the point,
I've got pessary envy.
I know.
Is that even a thing?
my physio is actually training now in pessaries because I've been going on at how much amazing it is. And I'm like, there's no one around here. You need to train. She's booked on a course. She's like, oh, it's really so good that you've had that sort of experience. So yeah, I think my ideal hope in life now is that I can manage my prolapse through use of the pessary, and I do lots of hyperpressives. I found Alice through your podcast as well.
Wow, yeah.
So me and her have worked together, and I do my hyperpressives most days, 6 days out of 7, just for 10 minutes. My pessary, and then just management of pressure on the pelvic floor, like I've talked about. I hope I can keep it where it is and never need surgery or never need to go down that route, because I'm probably symptom free now 80% of the time, which is great. And then another 20%, the pessary comes in. So I more or less feel like I've got my life back. And I'm so glad for that.
Yeah, that's so amazing and so inspiring. And I love your story, because I think that everyone who's listening can kind of take a little bit from it, even if it's just like, if what's going on right now is not working for you, and you have got those symptoms, there will be something you can try. At least there's always kind of that hope that you can try something else. And I know, people are on a spectrum with it, and some people are in a worse position than others. But just even if you've had a bad experience, just try something else. Try someone else.
And the other thing is as well, I think, when I have to sit down and do the hyperpressives every day, I don't want to do it. I don't like doing it. I find it boring. I usually end up leaving it till the evening because I'm like putting it off. It's like, for me, a small price to pay for the output of it. And I think I speak to a lot of people, obviously, through Instagram, and they say, oh, I need to get in a better routine with some pelvic floor exercises or whatever. And I totally get it. And I think people can look at me and just think, oh, she's got it all going on. But it's like, I really struggle as well to want to do it, to find the time to do it, to be motivated every day. I'm not, and discipline has to kick in at that point and think, but don't let all the hard work you've done go to waste. I see this now is going to be my life if I want to maintain, probably may experience some changes to symptoms through menopause and stuff. So the more proactive I can be, the better. But I don't want anyone to think, oh, well, I can't do what she's done. I'm the same. I'm the one dreading it. I'm the one not wanting to do it. But I'll always do it because I know that it's worth it to get the output.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point to make as well, because like, God, all any of us want when something like this happens is a quick fix. And, unfortunately, that's not how it works. And you can see as many experts as you like and throw as much money at it as you like. But at the end of the day, like, you do have to do that regular work, don't you?
Yeah.
And it is really hard to keep that up all the time. And it will be up and down, because it's just life, isn't it? And sometimes other things just crop up and take priority. But if you can carve that out, you can see results.
And make a routine, like make it part of your routine. But some days, I just have to have a few days off. I'm like, look, I just need a rest from this. I don't want to do it like for a few days. But like any muscle that you build, nothing bad's going to happen if you have a few days off. But if you have a few months off, it's going to diminish. So I just try and think of it like that. If I need a few days off, take it, but then get back into that routine again soon after.
And I mentioned like you've done so much in talking about it on Instagram, because I think like a lot of your content before maybe, and as well as is more like lifestyle and motherhood more generally. Did you worry before you started posting about this on Instagram? Were you embarrassed or worried about how people might react?
I'm a bit of an external processor, so I post to help myself as much as it helps other people.
Totally get that.
That's the way I deal with things. I like to talk about things and problems. A lot of people are a bit more insular, I think, and don't necessarily do that, but it helps me. But then seeing it help so many others, and I get messages all day, every day. I'm sure you're the same. Saying, oh, thank you for speaking about this, you've made me feel less isolated, or can I ask what you've done around this, and whatever. Like, that's the reward for doing that. But yes, I do have people from work, males that follow my page and other stuff, and I'm talking about vaginas and periods and sex, and I have sort of worried about that a little bit, but I just try and think, look, at the end of the day, this is our anatomy. It's not like it's no different to your arm, your head, your foot, or whatever. And I don't want people to be ashamed and embarrassed to talk about it, because it's isolating enough as it is. And I just think if I can show that it's okay to talk about it, then I hope that'll inspire others. And I wish I'd known about this condition sooner and the chance it could happen. And so if I can raise awareness through my platform of that might help others, that feels to me like I'm paying forward what I didn't necessarily get. And that's my motivation for doing it, even though it can be a bit cringe. And I think my dad follows my page as well, and I think, oh, he's going to read this and he's going to be like, wow, I don't know if I want to see that. But it is what it is, and we are just human beings, aren't we, at the end of the day, with the same anatomy, and we shouldn't be embarrassed.
No, and I'm sure he's massively proud of you as well. Thanks to Holly Puddy Fat for kicking off season 5 with a bang. You can follow her on Instagram. She's at Holly and Thea. And she's absolutely right. We shouldn't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. Try not to be embarrassed. It's not always that easy. You've been listening to Why Mums Don't Jump with me, Helen Ledwick. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe, write a review and share it in whatever way you feel comfortable. And don't forget to sign up for emails for the latest news from me. You can find a link in the show notes or at whymumsdon'tjump.com. Why Mums Don't Jump is sponsored by iMedicare, pelvic health naturally. iMedicare provides devices and products for pelvic health that are safe and easy to use, helping you to manage your symptoms while you're on the way to recovery. Products like Lumana Activewear, fitness leggings and running shorts that have absorbent underwear built in for protection from leaks, whether that's wee or sweat or period blood or discharge. And the leggings have a phone pocket, which is music to my ears. You can find Lumana via the affiliate shop on the Why Mums Don't Jump website, where you'll also find a discount code. Thanks to the team at iMedicare.